Hi, welcome to my August submission for the movie reviews. So basically, we're already over half half over the year. Um, and turns out I still haven't learned from procrastinating. I haven't learned anything about leaving everything until the very last minute. So yeah, I actually I'm kind of filming this in a bit of a rush because it's kind of late right now, and I have a busy day coming up tomorrow, but I have to do it because after looking at the time, at the days and the planning, and I only have tonight now to do this. Anyways, so the movie that I watched for this month is called The Time That Remains, which came out in 2009. So originally, I wanted to watch a different movie, a movie that I know I'm gonna hate and I'm gonna have so many things to talk about. But then before I watched the movie that I intended to watch, I saw a YouTube video, a video essay talking about this movie, The Time That Remains, and I was very interested about the movie, so I decided to change my route. Maybe I'll watch the other movie for next month. For this month, I'm gonna be talking about this movie, The Time That Remains. So, if you've ever heard anything about this movie, you probably would be start to hear about it in about the past couple of years, since even though it came out way back, but I think a lot of people would have heard about it more in the last 2 years, because this movie um is about the Palestinian life, you know. So it's based on, you could say it's based, I mean, if they're gonna talk about what happens to the Palestinians, obviously it's based on true story. But this movie specifically, and it's based on the director's life, especially what happened to him, especially what happened to his father, and then the next generation, which he follows his father, blah blah blah. So this movie, it's despite it is about the conflict, despite it is about the all the stuff. It's actually, you could, the concept itself, the way that they present the story itself, it is very light-hearted. It's not a tragic movie. It's not. It doesn't intentionally want you to cry. It doesn't want it to make you feel terrible watching it. It's actually, if you look at Google, what the genre of this movie is actually, it's actually comedy. So that's kind of interesting, because how do you make comedy out of the situation that they were in? So basically, this movie is about, it 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 was set in three different phases, I'd say. So the first part of the movie was set in 1948, which, if you know, based on the history, that is when that certain country got its independence. I don't know, it's the creation of that country. So that's when they started to abuse the Palestinians who were living in that land in the past thousands of years. And then the second part is in the 1970s, and then the final part, which would be the present, which at that time would be around 2009. So basically, the movie itself, it just tells the story of the people who were going through all of those occupation. So the movie started focusing on the directors. The director, his name is Ilya. So the first part of the movie focuses on Ilya's father, which is Fuad. So it just starts normal, and then suddenly they announce that all of the Palestinian people, they have to submit to the military. The military have all the power. They have to submit all of their weapons. They have to be home at a certain time. There's a curfew. If they were out and about outside of the curfew time, there's gonna be consequences, and yeah, basically that. But Fuad, Ilya's father, is a resistance fighter, so obviously he's not just gonna stay put. He also himself makes his own weapons, so he has his own weapons like stored at his house. So what happened to him was like in early on when they was just starting to like mildly get into the occupational stuff, woohoo, they someone came into Fuad's house and just said that someone got shot outside, he got hurt, we need someone to help him. So Fuad goes out with that guy to help that guy, and they were trying their best to not be spotted by the military. So somehow they managed to get the man inside where it is safe, but when they're trying to go out to get back home, they were spotted. So they were brought to like the, I guess, like the military, a bit of a HQ kind of thing, and he was basically arrested then. And I guess since then he has been like targeted because they know him as like he is a resistant fighter, he has weapons and all those kind of stuff. So basically they started to like torture him. So after they beat him up, they threatened to like shoot him if he's not gonna tell them where he stores his weapons, and ultimately they threw him over a cliff sort of, but he didn't die, but he got seriously hurt. And throughout the movie, it was apparent that he has gotten like slowly sick and more sick over time because of that incident. So now we skip to the 1970s. This is when Ilyas was around 10 years old. So there, Ilyas lives with his parents, Fuad and his mother. You know what? I'm not sure what's the name of his mother. There were several female names in the movie, and I wasn't sure which one was his mother. And nearby lives his aunt Olga, who is a bit of a weirdo, you can say. Anyways, during this time, what the director Ilya wanted to show throughout this time is, you know, during that time the occupation, I'm not gonna say it wasn't as bad, but at least the people, the Palestinian civilians, they get to do like sort of normal everyday routine, like going to school. I'm not sure about going to work, but because they didn't show that, but they have like their own shops. I mean, the way he portrayed it at that time, it was still a bit more, you know, a bit more, I don't know how to say it, like they can live their life, sort of. And also you can see that the way the military behaves at that time, they were still trying to like save face, they were still trying to like get around the rules, not trying to be so blatant in their abuse, as opposed to what you see the videos that you can see now. They're like very blatantly violent, very abusing people and all that, and they're proudly showing the videos around. But in the way that Ilya portrays the occupation in that movie during that time, it's more of like they were just trying to be safe, trying to not stand out too much. So so Ilya can still go to school, they can still like walk around and about in their area. So what he showed throughout this part, the second part, is like the mundane, sort of mundaneness, you can say, of the everyday life that they had to do at the time. Like they're just trying to live a normal life, but they kept getting um, disturbed. They kept getting questioned about the things that they do, which is supposed to be like nothing wrong about whatever they're doing. So like, for example, like there's this neighbor who is sort of like an alcoholic, and he keeps like drowse drowsing himself with um the diesel or like petrol, like to lit himself on fire because he was so frustrated with the situation that they're in. And like every time that happens, that the other neighbor would call for Aunt to come out to calm him down. And if that happens to you, like right now, somebody comes to your house and asks you and said to you like, hey, can you help, this guy just drowns himself with petrol and he wanted to lit himself on fire, you're gonna be so like so frantic, like, okay, what can I do? How you gonna call like the authority or something? But to them at this point it was already like a norm, like this happens like too many times already, and it's very normal for them. And that's the sad part, like they just have to live through that every day. You can call that mundane, but it's not the mundane that we feel every day. Their mundane is just, it's depressing, it's like, it's very humiliating, it's very abusive, and it's just, that's just what they had to go through every day. And when Ilyas go to school, he would sometimes, like, his school is, he goes to an Arab school, but obviously it's being indoctrinated by certain other indoctrinations, I guess. And then he would point out, and then the teacher would call him out because he says that the US is what was it, colonialist country, I think is what he said. And the teacher is like asking him, where did you learn that, how do you know that, and then basically reprimanding him for saying the thing that is true. Yeah, so, and then that happens again and again. And then Fuad, late at night he would usually go fishing, and then every time he goes fishing, and a military truck would pass by and would just ask the same thing again and again. Where are you from? Do you have your ID? What are you doing? Blah 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 blah. And this happens every time. They were just fishing. They're not disturbing anybody. They were just fishing. And it seems like the soldiers, they knew like what the answers are gonna be. They knew like these people are not doing anything wrong, but they still will disturb them, try to show their power, or like whatever they have, you know, to just like, to just disturb people, to just it was shown in sort of a comedic way, because it's like it repeats itself, and it's like, oh, this again. But when you think about it, it's very humiliating. It's very abusive, the way that they do it, the way that they have to constantly ask people, like disturb people in their like everyday life. And then this just happens again and again, and then time sort of skips a little bit. Like I wasn't sure what year was this around, but Ilya is like a young adult. He was probably in his early 20s, and you can see that the situation there got a bit more aggressive, a bit more, like more difficult for the people compared to the past few years that they had shown. And you can see that there was some civilians who are trying to fight against the military, like the famous story of civilians throwing rocks to the military tanks, and these people are just getting shot, like in the during the day. And there's a scene where Ilya was watching from his balcony, and there were civilians running around throwing rocks to the military, and they just shot him. Like, you can't shoot civilians, especially when they are unarmed, but what do they care about that, right? um, so yeah, you can see that the situation got even worse. People are getting more hurt, like civilians are getting hurt. They can't just stay home anymore. They can just go out and about or do whatever they want. Yeah, but and I guess I missed this part. Like, I didn't really understand it, but Ilya, he was ordered to leave the country because he did something. I wasn't sure what it was, but he was ordered to leave the country. And during that time, you can see that his father Fuad gets more his health gets more deteriorating as time goes by. So before Ilya leaves the country, he goes to the hospital to like bring his father back. And on his way back, he stopped by the pharmacy to get some meds. And when he get into his car, you can see that his father was like dozing off, like to the radio, just slowly dozing off. And Ilya was just watching his father. And I'm taking this idea from the video essay that I watched, and he mentioned that during that time Ilya realizes that this could be the last time he sees his father alive before he leaves the country. Yeah, so it's and now and now we skip to 19 to the present, which is 2009 at the time. So Ilya, he returns to his home after a long time. I'm not sure if this was the first time he got home after he was ordered to leave the country. I don't think so, because he seems familiar with the area and stuff. So when he gets home, there was only his mother, so it's obvious that his father had already passed away. And his mother now is also like sick from diabetes, and she's also, you can see that she's also going to like leave the world, and she doesn't have much time left. And yeah, so basically the remaining of the movie is just Ilya going around to see what's going on in town. He meets his old friends. He looks after his mom, and then there was this like famous scene where there is this guy. There's like this huge military tank in the middle of the street, in between like houses, and then this guy comes out of his house trying to throw the trash out, and like the cannon part of the military tank was just following the guy's head wherever he goes, like to the garbage can, and then he goes back, and then he gets a phone call, and then he goes back to take the call, and was just talking or walking around, and that thing was just following his head, and the guy didn't care. And it's just I think it's a metaphor, or it's just like, it's very clearly a metaphor for like these people. They don't care anymore. They're just gonna live their life. It's just gonna do whatever, and even if it means that you're gonna put a gun to your head, right? It just, what else can they do? Like, they can't like fight that off. Like, okay, so whatever. They don't care about dying. If they're gonna die, might as well do whatever they want to do, you know. And then in the end of the movie, what happens was like, it was implied that his mother died, or like already facing her last minutes of her life. So Ilya was just sitting at the hospital lobby, and I was just watching people going in and out from the hospital, and there were multiple people like just goes in, like something bad happened, and sometimes some people goes out who already being cured or like being attended to by the doctors, and there are people being caught like get hurt because they were like protesting or fighting against the military. And I guess what it means, like from the last sequence, was that these people are just gonna keep living. It's just gonna keep like fighting however they can. Even if they get hurt, they're gonna go to the hospital and get fixed, and once they're fixed, they go outside and continue to fight again. So this obviously this the story didn't end with the whole thing end, because that's not reality, because you can see now like how many years later it just got even worse. I don't think they're anywhere near reaching that independence, near reaching that freedom. It just got a lot more worse than that. But you can see the resilience of the people, you know. The final people who, like, in the sequence, the final people that they show were, I think they were like civilians who fought the military. And as he was walking into the hospital, he looks back at his friends and like this, like, you know, like, be strong, like we can do this. So obviously this whole movie, it wasn't very straightforward. It's not like a straightforward movie with like a starting point and a climax and a resolution. No, it's just in the graph, I guess you could say the whole time it was just like this, which was kind of the irony of the story of, like, you know, occupation, like people suffering every day. But it just shows that it's not that their life is just flat, it's just that the abuse that's happening to them is constant. Like they do not see the end of this. Like every day they wake up, the same thing happens, they get hurt, they were attacked, and they try to sleep at night, and the next morning the same thing happens again. It's I don't have any other word to say than it's sad. The whole thing, it's just sad. So, you know, this movie, it got at the time it was released, it got like several notable awards in the film industry. It got quite like high praise from critics and everything. And I was just imagining that, you know, during that time, maybe like the Palestinians, if they saw the success of that movie, they were probably hoping, okay, now more people knows about the thing that we're going through, more people are gonna know what happens, what's going on with us. So the more people know, the more people are gonna help us, the more we're probably gonna get our freedom soon. But then that's just not the case. You know, it's like, okay, this is probably like a weird analogy to be applied to this, but it's like when you like a really underground artist, like they're not very well known but you really like them and you want more people to know them, you want this artist to be more recognized. But then you see like maybe like a very influential people in the industry somehow like mention this band that you this artist that you really like. So you thought, oh my god, now this person mentioned my favorite artist, now more people are gonna know my favorite artist and more people are gonna tune in into their stuff and whatnot. But then it didn't really do much, you know, like you see a little bit of like increase in the engagement and then it went back down again. So I guess that's what's going on with the situation with the movie. Like they get a lot of like international attention to that. So I would imagine that if I was in that position, like if I was a Palestinian and I saw that movie got a lot of attention, I would be very hopeful that maybe this is a sign that they will get the freedom. But you can see even now, like majority of the world is on the side of the Palestinians, but still we cannot. It's like we cannot do anything to stop them. It's so weird how like a very small amount of people who are on the side of this like killing people, and yet they have so much power to like still let that to continue happening to, like it doesn't make sense to me. Like, when did we decide that the US have so much power? Like, when did we decide that? Who did that? Who thought of that? Like, who thought that it would be a genius idea to have one country that is a colonialist, full of white supremacists, racist, Islamophobes, whatever? Who thought that these people should have the power to control the world? Like, obviously they don't have effect on what we have in our country now. They can't control what we're doing in our country now, but in some ways, like in the world generally, the things that everyone in the world are doing, they have to influence, they have the power to control all that. It's just crazy for me. So yeah, I don't know. So if you're interested to watch this movie, and if you want to like make your own interpretations, or you want to make your own review of what's going on, you want to understand more about the history, I recommend you that you watch it. It's available on YouTube. You can just watch it for free. It's in terms of the style, the way that the story is being told, I have to say, to be honest, it's not really something that I would enjoy typically. I don't really, and it has like that sort of like Wes Anderson style of movie. I'm not a huge fan of that. Sue me. I actually, don't sue me. But yeah, I'm not really a huge fan of that style, but like it is still an enjoyable watch for me because of the meaning behind it, because of the history. But obviously you don't watch this movie for mere enjoyment. You watch this to learn more, to like deep dive about the situation that these people are have been enduring for the past years and years and years and years. So yeah, anyway, I managed to do this review before the end of the month, and as you can see, I put some effort into my appearance. Not much. I still can't figure out the lighting though. It's really bad, but I'm not willing to do anything more about it. So this is as good as how you would get. So yeah. Wow, it's been half an hour. Alright. Bye.